maybe I really ought to go back to school. Uh, it's not easy to get into Harvard in the first place. They were willing to let me come back and restart, if you will. And so that requires a move. Well, to move, you have to have a place to live. So our time frame was very short. So I drove to Boston to find a place to live. Well, when I was in school up there in prep school, one of my real problems was getting haircuts. It was very stressful. And so whenever we went to another town or into Boston proper, I'd find a way of finding a barber shop and getting my uh, haircut in a less intimidating environment. I remembered the location of the environment, and I literally found the barber shop that I'd been to a couple of times on the occasions when I was able to, and just walked in, and there were a group of people, guys in chairs and sitting around. I says, "Guys, I need help. I have a serious problem. I need to find a place to live this weekend. Anybody got any ideas?" So uh, they talked among themselves. He says, where do you want to move? I said, well, I want to go back to school in Cambridge, and I would like to have something in or near Cambridge. And somebody knew a real estate guy in Cambridge, and he said, uh, hang on, I'll see if I can call home, get his number, call, blah, blah. Anyway, he said, he's willing to talk with you. So I met with this guy, and he took me to a place, and it was within walking distance to not only the campus, but to any place I could walk from there to any of the various buildings I need to get to on Harvard's campus. Uh, we talked price, and he told me, it wasn't the greatest place in the world, but he would rent it to me for $50 a month. Deal. Probably at the time, the average cost in the same area was about $120 a month, somewhere in that range. But this place wasn't nearly as attractive, or, it was conveniently located, but it wasn't very attractive. So I walked in, and you walk from the doorway, you walk right into the kitchen. And off the kitchen was a bedroom, a sitting room, if you will, and a bathroom. The place was filthy, physically very dirty. Now I'm starting to understand why I got this great rate. I called Mira and said, I have a place, but it's in miserable condition. And I described a couple of things. I said, on the kitchen floor, you could look and maybe see that the top layer of linoleum had a hole, and then below that you could see another layer of linoleum with a hole, and below that you could see another layer of linoleum through the hole there, and the floor tilted in. We found later on that the baby could sit against the wall and throw things away and then come back to her. It was very severe. So now I have to find the nearest grocery store, and I load up with rags, uh, cleaning products, and sponges, and mops, and all kinds of cleaning buckets, cleaning equipment. And I literally scrubbed down every surface in the apartment, including the ceiling. The whole apartment was on a 15 amp fuse, the old fashioned kind you screw in. And our first appliances were washer and dryer. We inherited a stove, so we didn't have to buy a stove. So the first day of washing, I come home from work, and there is maybe a foot of suds. Now, I wasn't surprised because the suds had come under the door and had started down the steps. But we learned. Mira learned that if she was doing the wash and she heard the refrigerator cycle on, she yanked the plug out of the outlet, because almost every time, if one major appliance was on and the other one tried to come on at the same time, blow the fuse. Well, I finally decided that I would take a fire risk and replace my 15 amp fuse with a 25 amp slow blow fuse. And that served us pretty well. The fuse didn't blow so often. The apartment was very interesting. With a slanted floor, our dinner table, our all-purpose eating table, was less than 4 foot and more oval shaped than rectangular. And one of the things that her father enjoyed observing, Mira was going to make waffles or pancakes or something for breakfast. And her father watched the batter, overflow if you overload the waffle, and off out of the iron, across the table, and dribbling off to the floor. The apartment was livable. And at some point, I saw an article that a local outlet store had 5-gallon cans of Army surplus paint, and the cans were maybe $3 a piece. I said, boy, I want to jump on this one. I called my landlord and said, listen, if you will buy the paint, I don't know how many gallons it'll take, but I will cover everything with fresh paint. And he said, no deal. For the rent you're paying, I'm not buying any paint for you. Well, we wanted the place painted anyway. And I went, and I think I only had to buy maybe 3 5-gallon cans of paint. Apartment was small. And I painted, so visibly everything was completely painted. But if you look behind a chair like that, you could tell where the chair was. And if you look behind the bookcase or the desk, you could tell where the bookcase was, and whatever. And even the lamps with the big shades, I painted just enough so when you walked in and looked around, it looked completely painted. And that was my revenge when we left for the landlord for not buying the paint for me. All the walls were canary yellow, and all the woodwork was flat black. So it was yellow and black because that's the only paint that was on sale.